Hey, welcome to the class, everybody. We like to start with a joke, of course. And this class is on the topic of self-love and self-care. Um, and the only problem is that coming up with jokes is really stressful. So, in the name of self-care, we put it off. And so we'll tell you that joke next week. Welcome to the class. My name is Dr. Asatar Bear. my lovely co-teacher here, Leah Schaefer, and we
Hello,
teach
everybody.
class every week. It's an introduction to Heart Rhythm Meditation, a method that
Mm,
comes out of Sufism, the Sufism of Hazrat Inayat Khan. And tonight, since it's yesterday's Valentine's Day, and it seems like we're in the we're in the hangover phase of that. So it would be good to
mm,
talk about, there's love towards others, and then there's love towards yourself. And what does that look like? And why do we struggle with it so very
mm,
much, right? So many of us.
mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. Um, and I'm somebody that I practice a lot of self-love. So I find that it's very much like a proactive practice, and um, it's something where I find that it requires just like a lot of ability to listen to what you need in any given moment,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to be responsive to that, to be able to be present with yourself.
Totally. So
Um,
let me ask you this,
yeah,
though, Leah. Have you always practiced good self-care, or is that like a newer thing in your life?
I think it's been like a discovery process, like of
Mm-hmm.
what I need, like what's my bread and butter, what do I really need and wish for and want, what nurtures me, right? What sustains me as well, you
How
know.
about this? Here's the thing I've been thinking about on this topic. Like, what is the difference between self-care and self-development? What do you think?
Self-care and self-development.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm really
I
springing this
think
on you,
that
I know.
self-care, yeah, well, I think that self-care like allows you to support yourself so that you can develop, so that you can progress and evolve within yourself.
Yeah.
It supports your process of evolution and your process of self-discovery.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, um, we can't go further unless we replenish, and if we don't have that, um, that sort of base built up, right? Are we doing it for? Are we, in our efforts to improve ourselves? Let's say, are we doing that for the right reasons, or is it another form of kind of self punishment, right? And there's
Mm,
so many of those already,
yeah.
right?
Mm,
So, oh, hold on, we've got a comment here uh,
okay.
from AQ. All right, well, um, thanks for
Interesting.
that. Nice to see you.
Yes, love that you're here, IQ.
um, I, here's what I often do, Leah. I will be like, okay, it's self-care time. I'm gonna wake up 3 o'clock in the morning and do several hours of meditation. I'm gonna lose
Mm,
30 pounds. I'm gonna go to the gym, like this, right? Because it's
mm,
a lot easier for me, just based on like my kind of outlook, right? My energy. It's easier for me to think in those terms, or think about, discipline, activity, and doing something, when a lot of times, like what I need is rest, let's say, you know,
mm.
that doesn't that doesn't like spring to mind. Like it's so much easier for me to think about self-development, I guess, than it is to think about
Mm.
self-care. I don't know, do you deal with that?
Well, I think that's where listening comes in. You have to be able to listen to what your body needs at any given moment because it's always going to be different at any given moment.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like you do need like a fire lit underneath of you and to wake up early because that's your practice. Or maybe like when you check in with yourself and take a moment to hear and listen, like, what do I actually need in this moment? You take advantage
Mm-hmm.
of the opportunity of the moment.
Yeah.
Um,
We have a comment here. Real love means looking out for each other and seeing what we have in common. Yeah, that's beautifully
I love
said.
that. I love that.
Instead of trying to get over and exploit others, sadly hard to find others. Yeah. Well,
Mm,
very, very true. Um, you know,
mm.
we we do need to think about other people, right? It's not just about
Yeah.
ourselves, right? Um, and sometimes we get into a thing where, neglect is also very common, right? I mean, there's so many ways of neglecting yourself, right? And for
Hmm.
some people, their way of neglecting is by putting everybody else first, right? I mean, um,
Hmm.
and I think that's also like a pretty heavily gendered kind of thing as well, right? Like men are encouraged more to think about themselves, and women are encouraged to think about others. I mean, not to like stereotype or
Mm,
whatever, but like, there are these
mm.
broader dynamics in our culture, right? Um, so, depending on like what comes naturally to you, whatever, right? I mean, thinking about others can be, a very powerful, way of developing yourself, right? Or it can also be a kind of a way of neglecting yourself if that's your
Hmm.
pattern, right?
Yeah, you always want to have a balance of being present with yourself and being supportive of each other, you
Yeah,
know, a balance between those two things. Because when you're present with yourself, then you are very much like able to hold space for yourself.
yeah. We have another comment here. First time here. Wanted to say thank you for talking about such important topic. Really happy to
Oh,
see
that's so
you.
sweet.
Very nice. Thank you. Glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here, everyone.
Yeah.
Mm,
We also want to acknowledge, right, that we're not just islands, we're not just individuals, right? Like the reason that so
mm,
many of us struggle with self-care is because, we're in a capitalist economy, right? Like where we are,
mm,
many of us are just kind of like on the edge, right, of just making it, and so that places real limits on our time, on our energy, right? Like we want to
absolutely.
acknowledge that that's there, I mean, like
Yeah,
we're aware of how this world is structured, right? Um,
yeah,
so we're not suggesting that like meditation or whatever new age stuff is like the solution to everything, right? I mean, it's a thing that we know about and a thing that's helped us, right? And it's not, you know,
right.
um,
It's a form of like self-regulation, and it's a form of putting an intention on your breath, which is like one of the most basic actions that we can take toward um, bringing that which we want to create, that which we want to attract into ourselves and into our lives, such as love, for example. So,
yeah,
like, the intention of bringing love in on our breath brings that action onto a primal level of ourselves. And so it's
right,
a way of nourishing ourselves.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a very ancient spiritual principle that many of the great teachers, and it's reflected in the great religions, right, that the energy that comes to you is in part a product of the energy that you put out into the world, right? um, and when Jesus was asked about this, right, like how important is it to eat the foods that are kosher and whatever else, and he says, it's not what goes into your mouth that defiles you, it's what comes out, right? Meaning the energy that you put out there, right, it's going to come
Mm,
back to you in some
mm,
form, like as they say,
mm.
if you want
Yeah.
respect others, right? um, if you want to be loved,
Mm,
love others, things have a
mm,
way of coming back. So we always look at like what do we have the most control over, right? And there's lots of people in the world, there's lots of forces, right? There's lots of things that are outside of our control. um, but
mm.
what can we do within ourselves, right? That's a
Right.
place
Bring
we
it
have.
home. Right.
Yeah,
Mm. Yeah, bring it home within ourselves. What can we do within ourselves? Because that's like the most immediate like form of influence.
yeah.
So, should we get started on that? Maybe we should start our meditation.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So, as you're ready, close your eyes, everyone. Since you're at home, you can be doing anything you really want to be doing, so you could lay down if you wanted to. You can keep your eyes open and soften your gaze if you'd like. But we're going to be doing the water breath, and we're going to be working with the crown a little bit this evening, so you might want to sit up for that experience of like the height of your heart as we do the water breath. But for now, just start to breathe, full deep breathing. As you're ready, inhale through your nose and exhale out of your mouth. Coming into the water breath. And you want to try to go slow with your heartbeat. If you can, start to listen in and tune into your heartbeat and try to find it. And breathe in rhythm with your heartbeat. Inhaling into your nose and exhaling out your mouth. Long rhythmic breath. On your next inhalation, focus on your heart center. Exhaling again into your heart center. And on your next inhalation, inhale from your heart center all the way up and go as high as your inhalation will allow you to. So inhaling into your nose and energetically focusing on and mentally focusing on your heart center. And as you inhale, inhale from your heart center all the way up, trying to feel the channel of your breath moving up towards your throat, through your third eye, through your mind, through your consciousness, and up and over your head, way up high. toward the full moon, and then exhaling out your mouth, coming all the way back to your heart. Hmm. And as you breathe this way, continue to try to move the energy from your heart as you inhale up from your heart, up high above you. And then as you exhale, exhaling out your mouth and allowing the energy to flow like a stream over your skin and washing your heart and just running over and through your heart. The energy and intention of love. And then maybe place your hands on your heart, or fingertips, finger pads on your heart, and really ask your heart what nourishing to it right now. And just be present with yourself and your heart and all that is, accepting all that is, honoring yourself, honoring your heart, honoring this time that you've shown up for yourself. And through your presence and your listening to your heart, you can decide how you want to be responsive to whatever it is that will help you feel inspiration and help you feel love. All right, and then as you're ready, go ahead and move your body and open up your eyes.
It's really wonderful to do that water breath practice and have the hands on the heart and that feeling of that energy of the water, right? Just moving into your heart
Mm,
and lovely, lovely practice.
mm, mm. Thank you.
I was thinking about this thing that I learned from a friend who's a Buddhist teacher, and he said, the part of the Buddhist teachings is that there's a fundamental desire uh, in the human being for self-destruction. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Right?
Maybe
Like,
it's just for change and transformation, though, maybe it's just
well,
for change and
yeah,
transformation,
yeah. I mean,
right?
they connect it to limitation, right? Like we
Mm,
are way beyond this, right? And so, there's a part of us that feels limited, right, by that because it is a limitation, right? I mean, like our being on a fundamental level is unlimited. And so,
mm,
that destruction is like a part of, this is energy, right? This is a part of the universe. And so why wouldn't that be within us as well, right? um,
mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. There's like the Shiva energy, the
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
change,
Yeah.
transformation, evolution,
Sometimes things need
growth.
to be destroyed for other things to change, you know? Um, but we also have a
Hmm.
fundamental desire to maintain, right? So that
Sustain,
holds
right?
us together, right? This, yeah, the sustaining energy. And then we have a
Hmm.
fundamental desire to develop and, be
Mm.
more, right? To
Hmm.
unfold our potential. So, we and
Mm.
and
Yes.
these are different energies, and they operate at different times and maybe at different strengths within us, um, but I think that it's a little bit interesting to think of it that way, like, um, because when I think about self-care and self-love, I think about the opposite, that self-destruction or self-neglect or self-harm, um,
Mm.
which, like, how many of us deal with that, on some level or another, right? Um,
Yeah. I
maybe we
definitely
do
come
it
more
actively.
from the, what was that?
I was gonna say maybe we do it actively, or maybe we do it sort of passively, like maybe we don't do the things that, we know would be better if we did, you know?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that the self neglect or the self abandonment aspect of things is the one that I relate to the most. And so, like having a presence with and trying to line up my breath with my intentions and with my heart,
Hmm.
it allows me to stay like fully with myself so that I can progress and develop.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's also good when we think about self-care. It's like a lot of times, maybe this is just me, I don't know how widely shared this is, but like a lot of times we think about, oh, now I have to do another thing, you know? I got to do this
Mm,
other thing. I'm not doing enough of this, And I think that again plays into, there's a lot of these messages, right, that's come from outside us and say, you're just not doing enough, do more, And
yeah.
and like it, yeah, if you're already exhausted and burned out, that's the last thing you want, coming from within yourself, right? And I think there's
Yeah.
an aspect here of like appreciating what it is that you're doing now. Like what are the ways in
Mhm.
which you're showing yourself love? What are the ways in which you're showing
Yeah,
yourself care? Um,
absolutely.
because they're there. Like we want to start with a kind of appreciation, right? Like we're not, we're not doing nothing. We're all doing something. Maybe we overlook it. Maybe
Mhm.
and maybe we maybe we could retune it, but I think it starts with just saying what is happening now and
Yeah,
appreciating that.
being grateful for all that you already do and all that you already are.
Yeah. Doesn't that seem like the right vibe, right? Like that's
Mm.
self-care vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Don't start off by whipping yourself, like that's a good that's a,
Yeah. Don't do that.
yeah, if you're gonna whip yourself, just make sure it's
Mm.
in a very loving, spirit.
Yeah, you have to listen to what you need, and you need to be able to, if you need rest, then rest is important, right? And so you find like your way of resting.
Yeah,
Maybe that's a walk, maybe that's yoga, maybe it's cooking, maybe it's something else, right? Maybe it's
yeah.
art. Who knows, right?
Do you ever hear that old Sufi story? Gosh, it might not be a Sufi story. I've got so many of these stories that I have no idea what tradition this comes from, but it's like it's a guy, and he goes a huge journey and whatever to find a holy sage, right? And finally
Mm.
gets there. He's like, oh, I've been searching for you for years. I just want to ask you a question. How do you reach enlightenment like this, right? And the sage says, the sage says, sleep when you're tired, eat when you're hungry. And of course, the guy's horribly disappointed, right? Because that just seems way too simple. Where are the
So simple.
sophisticated? Where are the
Breathe in and breathe
sophisticated?
out. Breathe in and breathe out, and you'll be fine. Mm.
Like we want to make it so complicated, right? But like,
Mhm.
if you think about
Yeah.
that, I mean, how often are we out of balance with our sleep and with our eating, right? But of course, this is
Right.
also metaphorical, right? Like sleep is more than just sleep. It's what is the balance between activity and repose, right? Like there should be a rhythm there, just like your breath has a rhythm, right? Your breath does not
Mhm.
stay constant, right? Your breath is your inhalation and exhalation. Um, yeah, life everywhere has an ebb and a flow, um,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
and eating is not just eating, right? Although that's already a big topic, right? But it's about, well, what are you taking in, right? And what is your energetic exchange, right? Um, we I guess we could add go to the bathroom when you need to go to the bathroom or something to put at that to do that side of it, right? But the point is, right? Are we are we in rhythm with life?
Mm.
And a lot of times, no, right? We're surrounded by all these
Yeah.
artificial rhythms that impose on us,
Yeah.
and then we struggle with that, right? And we try to, okay, well, it should be like this. Um, so I just always was struck by that story. Have you heard that one before?
Yeah. No, I hadn't heard that one yet.
Uh,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing with the breath is that it's so simple, and when you put an intention on your breath, it is one of the most basic actions that we can create. It's a primal action. So,
yeah.
like, putting that intention on the breath, and it is so simple that making the breath balanced and rhythmic, right?
hmm
Yeah.
I also think
And
about.
sometimes yeah,
Oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, 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 go ahead.
Well, the other thing,
Mm,
we already touched on this, but like when we talk about self care, um, the issue of neglect, right? I mean, that's a big
mm.
one
Yeah,
because,
I worked through that one a lot, yeah.
yeah. And I think the things around that are like, well, what are you neglecting?
Mm,
And then why? Like what brings you to that point? Or um, what are you not facing? What are you denying, like through that neglect?
mm, mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we just like our
Mm,
wants and needs. Sometimes there's a part of it that sees us as like horribly inconvenient, like, oh, you have needs. Oh my God, I'm trying to do this thing, and now you have needs. Like, especially if you've developed a kind of pattern, right, of not listening to that, which many of us have, I mean, it's so common.
mm,
Um,
mm,
so, I think that this is something that, if you find yourself struggling with self-care, right, this is a way that meditation can help, right? Because you want to examine that, right? Like, what am I avoiding? What am I
mm,
neglecting? What
mm.
am I not seeing? What are the ways in which I'm
What can't
refusing to give to myself?
yeah, what can't I feel? Where's my not feeling?
Yeah.
What don't I see? What don't I hear? You
And I
know?
have to say, this is something that's different about, taking your heart and using that as the focus, because there there are approaches to meditation that don't really focus
Mm,
on your feelings, right, and your desires and your emotions, and that's seen as something to, rise above, and that's transitory, right? Um,
mm,
so by taking our hearts as the center, we're saying, no, this is actually very important, right? Um, and of course, it's a huge part of being human, being in the world, right? Having feelings.
mm,
Um, but we don't want
yeah.
to just focus on the transitory part of it, right? I mean, there's a personal part, and then there's a unlimited part as well, right? We
Mhm,
want to feel all of that. We want to experience all of that. Um, so, we want to kind of go deeper, go within, right? Explore
mm,
and refine. But, especially when we're talking about something that is holding us back or is an obstacle, what is the obstacle? What is, you know, so many of us deal with burnout, right? I mean, feeling
Yeah,
exhausted, giving
absolutely.
out too much energy, not replenishing, you know. Um,
Mhm.
and so I think that's a good thing to explore in meditation. What's the obstacle? What keeps you from, letting that revitalization in, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's probably different for everyone, but I think like by even breathing into our hearts like we were earlier with the water breath, we're already starting to come more toward the depths of our own ocean, and
Yeah,
really see like what's inside of us and um like the treasures that are in our hearts as well, just like waiting to be discovered. The keys of our heart are just like waiting to be discovered. But
mm,
we have to be able to, feel the love that we hold, in that depth of our being. And love is a very powerful, force. So it can
yeah,
have an opposite effect, right?
right.
Mm,
Beautifully
mm,
said. The
thank
treasure
you.
within.
Mm. Hurrah.
I mean, just that way of
Mhm.
looking at ourselves, right? Like, do we look at ourselves and do we come at ourselves with a kind of attitude of like, you're trash, right? I mean, like how often do we kind of subconsciously think that,
I
right?
hope not.
We're-
I
I
hope not.
know. Well,
Yeah.
there's so many messages around us that give us that idea. Well, there is, aren't there?
Mm,
It's, you are not good
mm.
enough. Versus, what if we look within
Right.
and said,
That's a
you're,
big
you're
one. That's a big one that comes at us a lot, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you're not doing enough. You're not
It's not
hustling hard.
true.
Not not working hard, and blah blah blah, right? All this stuff. What would it be to
Mhm.
shift that? Say, there's a treasure within you, right? You just have to uncover it. You just have to appreciate it, right? Um, I mean,
Mm.
it's a shift in attitude. We might not be able to hold that. We might go back to thinking, "Oh, you're no good," right? Um, but if we
Mm.
work on it, right? If we make it into a practice, if we
Yeah.
keep after it, um,
Yeah.
it shifts like these things. Doesn't do it instantly necessarily, right? But
Yeah, not at all. It's very much a practice, self-love is a practice for sure.
yeah.
Like anything, it's something I read recently that love is like bread and you have to knead it like dough. You have to knead it on a regular basis. And then if you think about it, you have to cook it and serve it.
All
So
these
so
steps.
that's what love is like, and so that's why it's a practice. That's why love's a practice all the time. But it's also available to us through our breath and energetically as well, through our intention and our meditations.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Well, I guess we should do another meditation then since we've talked it out.
Let's do a meditation. I
Let's do a
am
meditation.
totally up for that.
All right.
Okay.
Well, so
All
get
right.
in your right meditation posture then, and I like to have a position so that my knees are a little bit lower than my hips. It helps me to have my back straight, but you also want to be relaxed within that, right? Like, so you don't want to be
Mm.
so rigid that you're, using all of your muscles to stay upright. You want to feel like your spine is in line, your head is in line with that. The weight is resting on your sits bones, and that that so there's a force which is pulling you down, right? The mass of the earth, and then there's another force which is pulling you up, right? The gravitational pull of the rest of the universe, right? There's a lot out there, but it's very far away. But if you tune into it, you might feel that sort of lifting like a string from the very top of your head. And perhaps if you just pay attention to it, you can have this wonderful upright posture and not have it feel like a huge struggle. We're seeking to be still in meditation, but also to be very energized. We're still when we're asleep, right? But it's not very energized, right? That's a different energy.
Mm.
So stillness and yet active energy. That's what the upright posture signals to your nervous system. So it's a very
Mm.
unique kind of blend that we're after here. And now tune into your breath, and I'd like you to work on making your breath deep. So you can place a hand on your belly and feel your belly getting bigger as you breathe in and getting smaller as you breathe out. This is abdominal breathing. Allows your energy to sink lower into your body. Oftentimes, our energy is kind of buzzing around up near our heads. What if we allow it to just sink down? Then work on making the breath slow so that an inhalation takes longer than it normally does, and so does an exhalation. Now we want the breath also to be smooth. So really focus on your breath now and feel it being deep in your belly, being slow, and being smooth. So no breaks in it, no interruptions. And try to smooth it out so that it's not different in intensity in the beginning versus the middle versus the end. Really working to perfect the breath here. And it's a journey, right? You're changing your breath from how you normally breathe when you're not paying attention to it to something quite different. That takes concentration. That requires you to really focus your mind. And that's always difficult, right? Focusing your mind. Your mind wants to kind of jump around one thing and another, and that's what your mind does. But so you're bringing it to a single point. But you also have your breath to remind you if you get off track. Well, you check on your breath again. What's happened to it, right? Has it reverted to its kind of unconscious pattern, or are you keeping up the pattern, right? The new pattern that you're working on here? Now, we'd also like to make the breath full, and that means bearing down, using your abdominal muscles as you exhale, and really squeezing all of the breath out. Just imagine that your belly is moving toward your spine as you exhale. And then as we inhale, again, using the abdominal muscles, controlling the breath here, breathing in, allowing the belly to expand, and then allowing that breath to continue all the way and just filling the lungs all the way up to your collarbone, all the way up to that height, right? So we're not doing pure belly breathing anymore. We are doing a combination of diaphragmatic and thoracic breathing. That is breathing in the belly and then breathing into the chest. And this creates a much bigger breath, a much fuller breath. We call it the full breath for that reason. It takes a lot more muscular action. And you have to make the breath much slower, much longer. in order to do this. If you do this quickly, it'll make you kind of lightheaded, right? If you take huge breaths quickly, it's too much. So slow and full breathing, bringing together all these aspects that we've talked about so far. Now, we'd also like to make the breath heart-centered, all right, and rhythmic. So we can do those two things at the same time. As we're doing our breathing, as we're working on this full breath, we can tune into your heartbeat there and notice the beating of your heartbeat and bring it into rhythm with your breath. So the same number of beats on the inhalation as on the exhalation. And you can use the number of beats that you think is right, but I like to aim for 8 beats in, 8 beats out. Sometimes I'll do longer than that. I don't often do shorter, but try aiming for that, right? If you can't feel your heartbeat very well, you can place your hands on your heart. You can take your fingertips and press into your breastbone. Those are options to help you feel your heartbeat. If you still can't feel it, you can just imagine it, right? Count to yourself and just think about, imagine, well, what speed is your heart beating at? You're probably going to be pretty close to it, which is pretty amazing. My guess is on some level, even if you can't feel it, you have some notion somewhere in you. Bring your breath into rhythm with your heartbeat. Keep on working on the breath. Keep the breath slow and deep and rhythmic and full. It's a very challenging practice. This is much more challenging than just watching your breath, right? We're really intervening. We are being very active here. We're not just observing, we are changing. But there's a secret in here, because changing your breath is changing yourself at a very fundamental level. The breath is life. And in Sufism, the same word is used for breath as is used for self. Very interesting, right? Your breath is yourself. Change your breath, change yourself. The energy that comes into your heart, you want to be imagining that it is your heart that is breathing, right? Your heart center, the center of your emotional life, the center of your values, your principles, what it is that you honor, what is sacred to you. All of that is held within your heart. So as you breathe in, your heart is being replenished and revitalized with your breath. And just notice how that feels. How does it feel to take in this stream of energy? And by working on the breath, by making the breath deep and slow and rhythmic and full and heart-centered, all these things, we're really making your breath much more powerful. The energy that you're taking in is much, much greater. Try to just feel what is happening there. How does your heart feel there? You know, it's very common for us to resist this. We are surrounded by life's bounty, and we're given so many gifts on a daily basis. And how common is it for us to not only ignore that, take it for granted, but even to deny it, even to block it from our understanding? A lot of times we feel like we don't deserve it. Sometimes just receiving that gift is just the hardest thing. You know, we have these wounded places within us. We have this part of ourselves that's telling us we're not good enough. We don't deserve it.
Mhm.
But that's not how this works, right? This energy, this is love. And love isn't something that you earn. That's not something you deserve. You're loved regardless of what you do. Now, on the exhalation is your expression. It's your gift to the world. It's your unique energy that you are putting out there. We want this to be balanced, all right? The same length and intensity on the inhalation as on the exhalation. If we don't give enough, well, we're going to be dissatisfied. You know, there's things we long to express. Expressing energy is part of life, a key part of life, right? We long to express ourselves in all the ways that we can. But we also need to take in, we need to receive. And this is what life is. Life is giving and receiving. What we can do here is we can notice what are the self-imposed obstacles. Is there something here that feels blocked? Is there a part of your breath on the inhalation or the exhalation where you feel pain, where you don't want to go there? And just gently work on that. Just like you're easing into a stretch, like if your muscles are sore, and you're not going to jam yourself, right? You're gonna, I mean, it's not a good idea to do that, right? You want to just ease into it, okay? If you feel like you've encountered something, just try to feel what it is first. And then maybe go a little bit further. Be gentle with yourself. You're already doing a lot just by following along here, just by the simple act of paying attention to your breath, of really seeking to optimize your breath, to perfect your breath, to explore what is in your heart, to appreciate what you're being given and what it is that you're giving out to the world. Now, as you take your next inhalation, as you're full of breath, the very top of the inhalation, hold your breath for a little while, as long as feels comfortable to you.
Mm.
And just notice what this feels like. So you have the breath that's in motion, either during the inhalation or the exhalation. And then you have the breath that's being held, that is still. So in Sufism, the teaching is that when you hold your breath and when your lungs are full, you hold your breath, you are holding energy. And when you hold energy in your heart, you are enlarging your capacity. Holding energy is a very fundamental skill, right? We go through life, we receive energy from all of these different experiences that we have, and we want to just react, right? Like somebody honks the horn at us, and we want to say, fuck you. But our privilege as human beings is to think about, to consider, right? The energy that life gives us, maybe we don't want to spend it right away. Maybe we want to hold on to it. Maybe we want to transform it. Maybe we want to use it for some other purpose. We don't have to just react to things. We can take in energy, store it, transform it. We don't have to just react. We can respond wisely.
Mm.
Now, the way to really tune into your heart is to tune into the energy of love. So feel that the breath, which is all energy, right? That's what the breath is on a spiritual level, right? There's an air part of the breath, that's the physical level. The spiritual level of the breath is energy, and that energy is unlimited. So as you breathe in, you're breathing in energy that is infinite. And remember, breath is self, breath is life. The same word in Sufism, right? The word is nafs, means ego, and it also means breath. Your self is infinite. Tune into that energy and experience it as love. So the breath that you receive with this wonderful, smooth, slow, quiet, refined, and yet powerful, full breath, that is love. And you're receiving a huge amount of it. And that love goes on forever. And as you exhale, you are expressing that infinite, eternal, unbounded love that's coming through you, that's pouring through you. You're a bridge, and the water is coming through you, right? And that water has come a long way, right? The river is infinite. It's a long way to go. Tune into that river of light and love that pours through your whole being. And just let yourself take it in. It is your small self that is getting in the way of this. It's nobody else. It's you who decides, oh, I don't deserve to have this, or I don't feel worthy, or, you know,
Mm.
I get it. I felt the same. I struggle with it to this day, to be honest. But we restrict ourselves on the expression part two, on the exhalation part two, right? I say, I don't know if I can. I'm afraid of what will happen if I really am myself, if I really express myself. There's a vulnerability in that.
Mm.
But in meditation, this is the time. You're not actually expressing anything, right? You're dealing with a pure energy right now. So you have the free reign. You can explore here. What would it feel like? What would it be like if I just blasted the world with my love? What would that feel like? What would that be like? All right, well, let's end meditation
Mm.
there and come back to our
Mm.
space.
Mm. Mm. Thank you, Asatar. Mm. That was a fantastic meditation.
Thank you so much,
Mm.
and thank you all for being part of it. We do
Mm. It
we
really
create that together.
it really reminded me of inspiration, like rising up through love, because like once you bring the love into your heart, that's what brings up like the blooming of yourself, like the inspiration rises in love.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
I feel like I didn't. When we think about self care, we usually think about such specific things. Like put
Hmm.
on a face mask or take a bath.
Yeah, like very like, which I do.
Now those are great things to do. Like just,
I like
you
doing baths especially.
we did such a because meditation is such a like you're going to the meta kind of level, right? You're like
Oh my gosh, that was great.
what
Going to the meta level.
yeah, we got to go to the meta we
Yeah.
got to, right?
Loved it. Yeah.
Because we are a lot of times we're our own worst enemy when
Mm.
it comes to self-care.
Mm.
And that's the
Mm.
thing a lot that I wanted to work on with you guys today. So um,
Yeah.
we'll be back next week. We'll have another great
Mm.
topic for you then. We don't know what it is right now, but
Yeah, and in the meantime, like be tender with yourself and be sweet with yourself and just allow that love stream to come in through your breath.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And if
And
you want to,
through you and out to everyone.
and out to
Yeah.
everyone else,
Yeah. Bing.
thanks again for being part of the show. If you want to
Um,
support it, we have a link to the Patreon there in the description. And
yes.
see you next week. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste. Aloha.